We are so pleased to be presenting the Prudential Leadership Awards, and I want to start by just thanking Prudential and the Prudential Foundation for sponsoring and supporting these awards for the third year. These awards were first established at the 2011 BoardSource Leadership Forum, and they recognize nonprofit boards that understand and embrace exceptional governance. They acknowledge the critical role that boards play in overseeing their organization's missions, finances, and strategic directions. This year, 3 finalists were selected from amongst nearly 50 applicants, and they completed written and video submissions for the award. If you had an opportunity to view some of the videos, then you know that these folks face some stiff competition. And they represent truly inspiring examples of bold leadership. We have been thrilled to share these inspiring stories with our members and others in the nonprofit sector through our website linked to YouTube, which we hope you'll visit. And there is a link, a URL to it on the back of all of the brochures that you have in front of you. Each of the 3 finalists demonstrated that they were taking risks and thinking big in at least one of 3 areas: board structure, fundraising, or overall governance.
On behalf of Prudential and the Prudential Foundation, I am proud to be presenting the 2013 Prudential Leadership Awards to this year's finalists. Prudential sees board service as a crucial part of supporting communities and growing and protecting community assets. And we've championed strong governance in a variety of ways, through the Prudential Leadership Awards, through our support of BoardSource Leadership Forum, and by supporting our own employees to provide committed, thoughtful board service in their communities. We are excited to support the Prudential Leadership Awards for the 3rd year in a row because we understand the value of exceptional board leadership and have seen it in action through these awards. Before we move on to announce this year's Prudential Leadership Award winner, I am pleased to introduce the 2012 Prudential Leadership Award winner. Please join me in welcoming up to the stage last year's Prudential Leadership Award winner, DeLuke Smith, President and CEO, San Diego Youth Symphony and Conservatory.
Thank you. I was actually not able to be at the conference last year. My board members accepted on behalf of our organization, which I think was very fitting and a real demonstration of the power of our board. We had a crisis, and I had to stay and deal with it. And what was exciting coming out of the crisis, but also coming out of the conference with this award, is that we gained so much through this recognition. So I want to thank BoardSource and thank Prudential for helping us achieve more than we had imagined coming into the application process for the award. From a local perspective, it gave us new credibility. It gave us a higher profile in our community. San Diego Youth Symphony and Conservatory is not the largest of the arts organizations in San Diego, as you might imagine, but it really made a statement that our work was on par at a national level with other organizations and that our vision was one that we could be proud of. In terms of the actual community impact that we've been able to achieve since that time last year, it's gone at a much faster rate than we imagined. The transformation that our board initiated was for San Diego Youth Symphony and Conservatory to make music education accessible and affordable for all children. This is in California in the midst of the worst budget crisis of multiple generations, and yet they made the statement that they thought we could do it. Since last year, our first school district partner has returned music education to the school day. We're actually helping them return music to 4 schools currently. VH1 Save the Music Foundation has selected our school district as their only new California partner for their instrument grant program. We have research underway with UC San Diego that is investigating the connections between music learning and cognitive development and brain development in children. And we have most recently begun conversations with the National Endowment for the Arts to actually analyze the data of the students who are participating in our programs in comparison to students who are not participating in music. We're taking a holistic approach to the return of music education. This is in a district that has not had a full-time music teacher in 15 years and has not had a VAPA or visual and performing arts coordinator in 23 years. So we're making a powerful transformation in the lives of children right along the Mexico border. Thank you. But what I also want to let you know is we have discovered since last year that governance is not an end point, but it's really a process. And the learning that we've been able to do in the lead up to winning the award last year and the learning that we've had to do since winning the award last year is helping inform our ongoing adaptation to the change that we're creating. So from the point of view of my board of directors, this award really has represented a beginning. It's represented an affirmation that the work that they have undertaken and that the community leadership that they all believed was important to advance actually really is. And we, again, thank BoardSource, thank Prudential for this recognition of our efforts to make lives better for children through music. Thank you.
Thank you, DeLuke. And now please join me in celebrating our 3 finalists for the 2013 Prudential Leadership Awards. I'm going to announce these folks in alphabetical order and invite you all to join us on stage. Congress for the New Urbanism, represented by Board Member Chris Elisara and Communications Director Tim Halber. One Justice, represented by Board Chair Max Ashoa and Executive Director Julia Wilson, as well as some other team members. And finally, the YWCA of Northwest Georgia, represented by Board Chair Nurdin Cornelius and CEO and Executive Director Holly Tuckman. Let's give all of these honorees a round of applause.
Each of these organizations went through incredible stories of board-driven change and growth and are worthy of recognition. Our 2 honorable mention winners will receive a $3,000 cash grant, but there can only be 1 winner of our $15,000 grand prize, and that is One Justice. Oh. Please, let's take a look at the video.
One Justice is a statewide nonprofit that brings life-changing legal help to poor and other underserved Californians throughout the state. The board has made sort of fundamental, bold choices in 3 core areas. That strategic planning moment, including then renaming and rebranding. And then after that, looking at the board's own approach to governance and composition and structure. And then finally, most recently, their embracing of the board's role in revenue model and really just fundraising.
Some of the big questions the board was facing 3 to 5 years ago really got at why the organization existed at all. When we did surveys of stakeholders and recipients of our services, it was shocking. Some of them could barely recall us or had no idea what we did.
Some programs just had outlived their relevance. They were, the hot program and very much needed at the time they were initiated, but 5 years, 10 years later, the relevance just wasn't there as much.
The board faced those questions head on, and we helped guide the organization from a fairly diffuse set of 6 pretty disparate focus areas to 2. One of the biggest decisions, certainly in my 5 years on the board, was around renaming and rebranding the organization.
We had been the public interest clearinghouse since 1979 when the organization was founded.
And the name no longer reflected the mission of the organization and frankly led to some of the confusion both in stakeholders and on staff. Ultimately, it was a consensus-driven process. that resulted in a very strong name, we feel, One Justice.
The board realized that it had to look seriously at its own role in terms of governing and leading the organization. They actually created a small committee that would work specifically on the board governance and sort of the board's own professional development.
The board's governance committee has really upped its game. There is a lot of communication now between the governance committee, the executive committee, and the board as a whole to understand what the strategic objectives are for the organization for the next 3 to 5 years, and to really think carefully about what kind of board we need in order to support the organization's goals.
I think it's an important part of our overall governance process in not taking for granted our board members, but working with them and collaborating with them in coming to agreement on what each board member's strengths are and how those can best be used on behalf of the organization.
So there is a huge connection now, a very tangible connection between what the organization needs and what the governance committee is evaluating for, both in existing members and in potential candidates.
I was introduced to the board at a single meeting where we had gone through and developed some of the analysis and talked about how to really rethink the revenue model and where to focus. And I'd never been in a single board meeting where I saw a board take to it immediately and learn it and just incorporate it, and people were charged.
The way in which the board has engaged in fundraising in the last couple of years, I think again emphasizes the ability of the board to ask the big questions and take on the big challenges.
Frankly, we were not a big fundraising board. We had a lot of ideas, we had a lot of commitment, and we dedicated a lot of time to the organization, but that historically within the organization had not been a strength or a role or a large part of being a board member.
They invested in their own professional development. They brought in trainers. They made individual commitments about what they would do. They set organizational goals.
We went, I think in fiscal year 2011, from about $60,000 or $70,000 raised by board members to $120,000 raised in fiscal year 2012. And we have set really aggressive goals for ourselves this year for fiscal year 13, which we are very excited about achieving.
I think of One Justice as a learning organization because it's a group of people that's never satisfied with the status quo, that always wants to learn best practice, that's willing to apply it, that's willing to say we've made mistakes and move on to a higher plateau. And I see that in the staff, I see that in the board, I see that throughout the leadership.
Max and Julia, would you join us for a few words, please?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like all of us to recognize the Congress for the New Urbanism and the YWCA of Northwest Georgia for their amazing work and their recognition on the stage here today. I would first like to thank Prudential and the Prudential Foundation for supporting the BoardSource Leadership Forum. It is incredibly meaningful, as we heard from the San Diego Youth Symphony and Conservatory Executive Director. This can be a really powerful credential for the organization as a whole. It's incredibly meaningful, and we thank you for this support. I'd also like to thank BoardSource. As we said during our video interviews, we rely on BoardSource materials. Our amazing executive director, Julia Wilson, really helps guide the board. If you go into her office, you see her, her desk is lined with the materials, and they've really helped our organization with some of the efforts that you've seen us undertake. So thank you so much to BoardSource. And finally, I would like to accept the award on behalf of the staff that does such amazing work for us, on behalf of Julia Wilson, our unbelievable executive director, and on behalf of the board that it is my pleasure to serve as chair. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.